and welcome to the quick guide to Big Finish Classic Who, Charley Pollard with sex. I've not done any 8 videos yet. In case you missed the earlier videos, I'm going by companions, because for most Classic Who releases, Big Finish didn't have series as. The stories tended to jump around each Doctor's timeline, and as far as I can tell, there's no official, authoritative, agreed-upon timeline for adventures. So I've separated them out by companion. Hopefully it'll make things easier for everyone, and make it harder for me to miss any stories. Charley Pollard was played by India Fisher, most famous for playing Charley Pollard, but she does a lot of voice acting and narration all over the place. Charley, spelled with an EY at the end, randomly is almost the same name as Charlie, spelled with an IE at the end, Pollard, one of the victims of the Tuskegee syphilis study. He sued the US government and was awarded $10 million. None of this is pertinent, I doubt it was deliberate, but I thought it was weird enough to be interesting. Charlie is from the early 20th century, a rich young woman saved from the R101 blimp disaster by the 8th Doctor. His first Big Finish companion, if you don't count Gemma and Samson, but he doesn't, so nor will I. She's arguably 8's definitive companion, even though she's not as good as Lucy Bleeding Miller. And it was time for her to go, Big Finish decided to take advantage of the fact that, unlike on the TV show, all the Doctors actually exist and are making stuff at the same time in audio, and move Charlie from 8 to 6. It's a great idea, the sort of thing that might be possible on the TV show, kinda, but it would require a ludicrous amount of planning and forethought. So how'd she end up with 6? Basically, she thinks 8 died in their last adventure and she was left alone with a distress beacon, and when the TARDIS arrived, she thought it was a miracle.
Sorry, I was expecting someone else.
Now Charlie knows about regeneration, and she very quickly works out that since he doesn't recognize her, he must be before 8. And knowing his dedication to protecting the web of time and stuff, she knows she can't tell him who she is, which makes her weird knowledge of some time-space stuff a tad suspicious for sex.
Still, it makes a change from good grief, it's bigger on the inside than the outside.
Gee, I was just thinking how small...
Sorry?
You don't mean to say the TARDIS actually landed us in the right place for once?
For once?
I mean, I thought it wasn't usually so accurate.
Poppycock!
Well, let's have a look at it while we're here. Why don't you switch on the
what?
The viewing thing. Have you got a thing that does that? You know, shows us what's outside?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I have. However, as we're returning the volume mere moments after I borrowed it in the first place...
Are you allowed to do that sort of thing?
Allowed?
I just thought, well, you know, if you travel in time, there must be some laws to abide by, otherwise, well, things might get a bit confusing.
The obvious answer would be get it dropped off somewhere friendly and go on her merry way, but there's 2 problems. 1, Charlie is a weird space-time anomaly that should be dead, so she doesn't belong anywhere. And 2, Charlie fell in love with 8 and she thinks she saw him die. Her holding on to 6 is her grieving. It's like 6 is an old suit that belonged to the man she loved and she doesn't want to stop hugging it. Having said all that, Charlie is my least favourite of 6's companions. She's fine, it's just that her knowing random stuff and being incapable of coming up with a coherent explanation for herself makes her a little insufferable.
Well, we could be in one of the moon conurbations of the late 30th century.
Earth's moon? I don't think I've ever been to the moon.
Well, I should think not.
Well, no.
Infiltrate and kill?
It's a well-known Dalek strategy. The trouble is they don't have the wit to improvise a response.
The trouble is, you lot see Daleks in your own shadows.
Daleks? He said Daleks and you didn't even blink.
I know he said Daleks. It's the name of their enemy. I'm right, aren't I?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Now apparently this was supposed to be a very short-lived partnership. 3 stories that they're about. But Colin Baker and India Fisher, who plays Charlie, got on so well that they were kept together beyond that, getting 8 main range stories together, but also the occasional extra adventure set during their time. The Condemned opens with a quizzical doctor finding a confused Charlie. Now, she almost instantly realises that he must be before him again, and decides to hide her identity from him. Terribly. And she'll continue to hide her identity, terribly, for much of their time together. There is a very fine line between reminding the audience about the quite weird nature of their relationship and making them both seem like idiots. Charley for showing off obvious knowledge that she shouldn't have or randomly lying about inconsequential stuff, and the Doctor for seemingly never putting two and two together and working out her deal. So we'll take any complaints about this sort of thing as read unless a particularly egregious example comes up.
Someone else? Well, I hadn't realised dimensionally transcendental vehicles disguised as police boxes were quite so commonplace.
Oh, sorry, it's just that I'm so excited to see. I mean, to be rescued. I don't know what I'm saying.
So I gather.
Well, that took about 8 seconds. Anyway, after being picked up, the TARDIS suddenly sends them to 21st century Manchester and dematerialises inside a flat right next to a dead body, and the Doctor is found standing over him. Classic Doctor Who setup. What's interesting about this story is that you could very easily strip out the sci-fi nonsense and make it into a modern-day pure historical. The Doctor is arrested and questioned and ends up teaming up with a local cop to solve the case. Think Doctor Who meets Castle or Monk. The cop is D.I. Menzies, who turns up in a handful of other stories.
You're under arrest. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention, when questioned, something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
Typical.
D.I. Menzies, take a look at this in the corner. Police box.
What the hell? Is this thing yours?
Yes, well, I know it says police on it, but it is mine.
Tape it off. I want to look at it later.
Look after it, please.
Stop faffing and move.
Now this appears to be the first meeting, but the Doctor actually met her alongside Evelyn in The Crimes of Thomas Brewster and is just pretending here. But that's a retcon, because I'm pretty sure someone lost track of when the stories were set. But it actually kind of saves it a bit, because Six is almost insufferably confident, while being questioned about the murder that all the evidence suggests he committed.
I'm cautioning you again that you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you fail to mention now something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be taken in evidence.
Yeah, that's all fine.
You've been arrested on suspicion of murder.
Yes, but I am entirely innocent, though.
There are security cameras in the hallways of Ackley House. By a stroke of good fortune, nobody smashed them in with a brick this week. Not the ones on the 8th floor, anyway. So we've got footage of the door of that flat covering the whole of today.
Oh, good. I was hoping you'd have access to something like that.
Don't crack open the champagne just yet.
But with the retcon, it's obvious why he's confident. He knows he's going to be okay. Anyway, the actual murderer is pure crime show stuff, which I'll spoil. The victim's wife convinced the guy she was having an affair with to kill him by lying and telling him that he was abusive. She wanted out of the marriage and a big insurance payment. See how easily you could cut the sci-fi to this one? I mean, up until we find out that some weird tech had made the killer merge with the building and become a ghost. Sort of. The title is a reference to the building, rotting, unnaturally dark, ominous, and driving people inside it to despair, cause it got merged with an unhappy guy. Overall, this is a solid story, not spectacular, but pretty good. Charley and Six hit the ground running, as in they don't work quite as well as Charley and 8, but they're okay. Though Charley really acts the part of an early 20th century person, not realising that Indian food is common in the future.
I've had better.
It's gone downhill. Used to be a decent takeaway, that.
Still, it's wonderful you can just get it at this time of night. When I was a girl, we had to go to London, or I had to make my own.
You had to go to London to get a curry. Where'd you grow up?
Hampshire.
Thinking the phones still have operators 80 years after her time?
Hello, operator. I'd like to place a call to the...
Don't bother using the phone. Hasn't been connected in ages.
Almost like she'd not travelled with 8 at all. But I think this was for the benefit of the audience, who might not have listened to all of their stories. D.I. Menzies is a solid recurring character, the dour cop who has no time for any of this shit.
All right. But if you try anything funny peculiar, or funny ha-ha, you'll be down in the cells quicker than you can say Mulder and Scully. So that's how you got inside the flat.
Yes. Now that was just a demonstration. It can move far, far greater distances than that. Well, I could demonstrate that too, but really we're too busy, I think.
Do you realise you've just made my job significantly harder?
It's not unusual where planets who haven't yet made first contact are concerned, maintained an informal presence.
You really do have a knack of making me feel this big.
Well, in cosmic terms, you are.
And there you go again.
This looks like the chap. Patricia, could you take my coat?
I feel like a magician's assistant. All right, Doctor, you better get off.
Oh, really?
Yep, Turnbull's looking to pin this whole thing on you. It'll make things simpler for you and me if you disappear and I give him my version of events.
Which is?
I'm gonna sit down with a pad and a pen and I'm gonna work that out right now.
And the ending with the ghost is pure 1990s outer limits. This is recommended if you want to get to grips with Charlie and Six's weird situation, but beyond that it's hardly necessary. But it is good to hear Colin Baker do a Manchester accent.
I admit, I'm not a doctor, but it seems to me that he's not dead. Can you confirm my diagnosis there, Joseph?
I really was out for the count. I think perhaps I misjudged my medication.
Are you sure you weren't assaulted?
Oh, good grief, no. I'm fine, really. Sorry. Have I caused any trouble?
You haven't, sir.
It's all right if I go home?
I would just like to ask
Of course you can go home, sir. Yes, of course you can. We really are very sorry about all this. If you just wait outside, I'll see you get a lift home.
Oh, right-o.
He's from Manchester, but had the accent trained out of him at acting school. Similar things happened with other doctors. Hartnell, Troughton and Pertwee were all from London, and Tom Baker's a Scouser.
What's the matter, John Love? Blue meanies? Newer and bluer meanies have been sighted within the vicinity of this theatre. There's only one way to go out. How's that? Singing!
Used to go condom fishing. I swear, one time I caught this 2-pound black rib nobbler. It was about that big.
These are massive. They're the pinnacle of this building and this city. These define us. These make Liverpool.
So imagine the alternate reality where he kept that accent. The Doomwood curse is ridiculous in a mostly good way. It opens up in the far future as the Doctor tries to return a library book, a first edition of Rookwood by William Ainsworth, a real book from the 1830s but the highwayman Dick Turpin. Anyway, also in the library are some Grell, an extremely literally minded alien race who first appeared in the first ever Big Finish Doctor Who release, Oh No She Didn't, starring Bernie Summerfield. She's a whole other thing I don't feel like getting into right now.
Ah! Good fact! I have found a fact! Fact, it was the best of times. Additional fact, it was the worst of times.
Bad fact. These facts cannot both be facts.
Fact. When you have eliminated impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
Bad fact. Inconclusive speculation, not fact. There may be other facts. Find facts! Find facts! Find facts!
The Grell have taken upon themselves to deal with the concept of fiction by trying to make it literal. Naturally, the Doctor and Charlie blow up their defictionalization machine, but also get caught up in the blast and the book is destroyed.
The pen is mightier than the sword.
Bad fact. Fact. The sword is a large bladed weapon. Fact. The pen is a small writing implement. Therefore... Bad fact. She has hit the machine with a book.
Worst fact, the machine has exploded.
Even worse fact, our plans have failed. Retreat! Retreat!
Now look what you've done.
Done? I've just saved this
To Rookwood!
Anyway, they go back to the 1830s to get a replacement copy, but find themselves but 100 years earlier. In the time and place the book is set, and reality is shifting to match the novel. The Grell's defictionalization weirdness stuck to them like an infection, and now it's spreading. The main problem / annoyance with this story is the same as the Royale in Star Trek The Next Generation. It's Doctor Who trapped in a terrible novel. I mean, it's fun, but it's also terrible because the novel's terrible. There are some shining moments of genius, though. The Doctor and Eleanor, a local who's helping him out because Charlie's been made to think she's Dick Turpin's girlfriend, have no idea where to find them, but realise the other people in the area are affected by the spreading fiction, so they know the plot. And rather than investigate or anything, they just ask the locals where the main characters, Dick Turpin and Charlie, are.
What's that?
It looks like Falstaff.
Falstaff? What's a character from Shakespeare doing in a Gothic romance?
I could not say. It seems most odd. But perhaps to those in the romance, his presence would be clear as day.
Yes, of course! So, coachman!
Whoa, boy. Yes, sir.
If I were to say to you, Falstaff, what would you understand by it?
Falstaff? Well, you mean the Falstaff Inn in Kilburn, sir, where Dick Turpin may often be found with Gypsy Charlotte at his side?
And it's as easy as that.
In another clever bit, they realise that not being affected by the spreading fiction, that means they're beholden to reality, while everyone else can travel at the speed of plot. So they create personas that fit the story, dose themselves, and get where they need to be.
Uncle?
Yes, my dear?
Are you certain we are on the right path?
Every man and boy, tollkeeper and shepherd, ragamuffin and didicoy of whom we've inquired has assured us this is the way to York. For it is imperative that we reach York before sunrise.
That is true. It is imperative that we reach York before sunrise. But are you certain there is wisdom in telling all we meet of our purpose? It may be that rogues will hear of our precious load and try to relieve us of it.
Oof, I fear no rogues. I must and will tell everyone of our undertaking. For I am proud that I was chosen by no lesser person than King George himself for this mission. And as he entrusted this burden to me, he most regally informed me that it was imperative to reach York before sunrise.
But you carry within that box nothing less than the crown
nothing less than a
Queen
manuscript
Caroline...
of Handel's latest great work.
The what?
Nevertheless, it is imperative that we reach York before sunrise.
Oh yes, it is imperative that we reach York before sunrise.
Overall, this was pretty similar to a wildly expanded but less clever and much sillier version of a later released one-part story, A Most Excellent Match, from Recorded Time, where Perry is trapped inside Pride and Prejudice and the Doctor tries to save her. But it's not bad, it's a fun farce wrapped around the skeleton of a god-awful novel. The most interesting guest star was Hayley Atwell, playing Eleanor, who accompanies Six in his mission to save Charley. She was great, I didn't even recognise her voice until she was interviewed in the behind-the-scenes bits.
Miles on, and there is still no sign, Doctor. We may not even be following in their tracks.
Oh, yes, we are, Eleanor. I know where Turpin is headed, even if he doesn't know it yet himself. To York.
Oh, but he'll never make it.
He will. It's in the book. The bit that everyone knows, even those of us who haven't read it. He rides all night and finally reaches York. Gallant Black Bess dropping dead just as the clock strikes 6 in the morning.
But Charlotte!
He's cursed to die before the next sunrise.
Anyway, this whole thing is just fun, an excuse for everyone to overact as much as they liked when they're affected with a fiction. Here's some highlights.
The sorrow that clouds my heart is that I am to wed the wrong woman. I have loved you from the instant I saw you.
John, let go of me!
Not until you admit you feel it too.
But I don't... Where are we going?
There. With my mother's bones as witness, dare you deny that you love me too?
Oh, John. Doctor, you forgot the rosemary!
Eleanor, stay back! This is how Turpin shoots! Turpin shoots?
Doctor?
Mr. Turpin, sir, I beg you, don't shoot my ward by all that is holy.
Doctor, the bouquet! Catch!
What is this garland?
Oh, damn you, Dick! Fire!
Ah!
Doctor!
What tale would they tell then? He shot a man, he flew, he hid. No, Charlotte, we ride to our destiny this night, Bess and I. I may come still to dance to the music of the four winds. My beautiful Bess may yet be borne away to the knacker's yard. But if we reach York by morning, then we shall never die. Not while stories live in men's hearts.
Then ride on.
The hangman's got his eye on you, Dick. And as for Charlotte...
I ain't forgotten what you told me of my fate, Mother. But how did you know to find us here?
Well, the tales reach me of your ride, and other tales too.
Other tales?
Aye, of a man who rides behind, carrying a most precious burden that
Let me out!
No, Doctor. You are the only one who knows of my deeds, but now you will never tell.
Sybil! Sybil!
Save your breath. You have little enough of it.
Oh, wonderful. I think she's sitting on the lid. Lady Sybil, this isn't the real you.
I am as real as those bones on which you lie.
Yes, thank you for reminding me of that.
Brotherhood of the Daleks is next, and it is ludicrous. There's not much else to it, but I'll try to expand regardless. Some Thal soldiers, the other people from Skaro, the Daleks' first enemies, are on a jungle planet on a mission. Think Vietnam War.
No sense in wasting flares.
Commander.
Jessic?
They're wet, Commander. The flares.
All of them?
Oh, better and better.
Then we'll have to dry them out.
In this humidity.
In this humidity. And then, in 3 nights' time,
We'll have to assume the orbiter will pass by early again.
1, the flares will not dry out. 2, in 3 nights' time, we'll all be dead. 3, even if by some miracle we survive death by enemy ambush and death by vegetable infection, we still won't know if the orbiter will be early or late or bang on time
because you're lost.
But then it turns out they aren't Thals, but Daleks who've been brainwashed into believing they're Thals as part of a Thal experiment to fight the Daleks.
We are not Daleks.
Keep back.
I am Septo. I am Valian. We are Thals. We are Thals.
But then it turns out the experiment is actually being run by the Daleks as a plot against the Thals. But the head of the experiment doesn't know that. He's far too busy being part Thal, part Davros, and part tree. Science is weird sometimes.
Doctor, he's half
Thal, half plant, you were going to say?
No.
A living glass house. Fascinating.
Move away from the director.
Stand down, Tamaris.
Director.
Thank you. I apologise. A translucent plastine casing. Water is continuously recycled through, yes, here, thus keeping the foliage moist.
Oh, why?
So the plants needn't draw on the director's own fluids.
Lovely.
You're a one-man ecosystem, aren't you, Director...
Murgat.
I've a question for Director Murgat.
Yes?
Who prunes you?
And then on top of that, the head of the experiment is a dedicated Marxist. Not space communism like Star Trek, but an actual Das Kapital 19th century style Marxist. And once he turns the table and the Daleks pulling his strings, he manages to use his mind control experiments to create an army of dedicated Marxist Daleks. Don't believe me? Here's them singing the red flag, the British socialist anthem.
Listen.
Is that singing?
Oh, it's singing, all right.
The Dalek flag is flying here.
The fuck is going on?
The voices are done by members of the cast and anyone else who is around. The head of the experiment is planning on aiming the communist Daleks at their fellow Daleks and breaking some chains. And good luck to the mad plant bastard, until we get to the wholly unnecessary epilogue showing the communist Daleks reverting to type.
You have corrupted us!
Just end it, Murgat, or I will!
No! Brother Daleks, I have made you free!
You have held us to a false doctrine! We must retaliate! Comrade Daleks, hail!
You might be wondering how such a weird plot happened. Well, according to the writer, Alan Barnes, he remembered Terry Nation's trick for writing Dalek stories. Nation was their real-life creator. Nation's trick was to not change the Daleks, but to think of a gimmick for each story that had never been done before. Such as the Daleks invade the Earth, the Daleks chase them through time, also this one's silly, etc. It kept the Daleks both fresh and consistent. So Barnes came up with a long list of weird things that hadn't been done before and chose a handful for the script. The handful included Daleks on drugs, Daleks who think they're Thals, and communist Daleks. And the end result is glorious. Plus we find out that the Doctor is friends with Robert Peary.
This is genuine Inuit garb. Borrowed from Peary on his farthest north. Terrible rogue, Peary.
Not as cool as Frederick Cook, but damn cold.
Terrible rogue, Peary.
The main problem with this story is the recurring one for Six and Charlie. Charlie being way too obvious that she's hiding stuff, and Six not working out the obvious.
Then what are this lot doing here?
To guess, fighting their blood enemies. Creatures they shared their birth world with.
And that birth world was?
A planet known as Skaro.
Right. Skaro?
Yes, Skaro.
Oh, I mean...
Does that mean something to you, Charlotte?
No, it's... Hello, what's that?
And as ever, it makes them both seem incompetent. Anyway, this is great, highly recommended, though the Dalek on the cover badly needs a big gold star. And this is Brotherhood of the Daleks in 5 seconds.
Me? I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. The symbol pain of Dalek rights and Dalek gain.
The fuck is going on?
Up till now, all of Six and Charlie's stories have been 4-parters, 4 25-minute parts, but Return of the Crotons is 2 25-minute parts. Unlike most of the releases, it's not part of the main range, but was originally a subscriber-only bonus release, though it's since had a regular release. It features... pause for drama... the return of the Crotons, the second Doctor's mind-stealing crystal robot, randomly South African enemies.
Cut auxiliaries, cut, output 0. Feeding emergency power. Power for 27 more minutes. Then we shall exhaust. Our function. The exhaust procedure is merely a reversion to basic molecules, but the matter can be reanimated. The dynotrope will exhaust in 3 hours.
Oh, I've never met a nice South African doctor. Yes, Jamie, I understood that reference. There is actually a reason for the accent. Roy Skelton, who did the voices, did it as a small protest against apartheid. I'm sure the fact that the Crotons were bright white didn't inspire this at all. It's the time of the great exodus from Earth as the planet is bombarded with solar flares, so around the same time as the Ark in space and the Beast below. One of the human escape ships has arrived at the distant planet Onyakis, where the Crotons are slumbering. Now the Crotons use raw brain power and will and stuff from living beings to power their... everything. And the captain of the ship found one of their teaching tools. Seemingly a headset that gives you puzzles and positive feelings when you solve them, but it actually just lets the Crotons siphon your mind and control you. It's quite a good concept, weaponized intellectual drug addiction. Anyway, the humans have been mining a weird crystallish substance from the planet, not knowing that it's the Crotons. Reduced to their component parts, but slowly regenerating. The Crotons are one of the silliest looking monsters in Who history. Genuinely alien, but ridiculous. It's one of the many examples of classic Who reaching for far more than it can handle, budget-wise, before completely failing. Honestly, they work better in audio where you don't have to look at them, and the insidiousness works much better without giant crystals stomping about. There's even an impressively Cronenbergish bit of body horror, as one of the characters falls into some proto-Croton goo and becomes half man, half Croton, all crazy person. I'm sure it would look ridiculous, even on a good budget today, but it works well with just the audio.
Oh my god.
What is it?
Well, I just saw... You're not going to believe me.
I might.
There it is again! Just the other side of its head thing.
Oh, yes. A blinking eye.
Well, is that normal for a Croton? Because I certainly haven't seen any others with blinking human eyes embedded in their head things.
Oh, indeed. Flesh on the arm attachments. Look.
Doctor.
Oh my goodness.
We'll set Onyakis on a new orbital path.
Directly into this system's sun.
What? Romilly, are you mad?
I'd like to see you stay sane after your entire brain and body have been hybridized with a crystalline life form. He's lucky to be alive at all.
Lucky, Doctor?
No, quite. Romilly, listen to me.
Crotons destroyed.
Romilly, can you understand us? Your plan will destroy all of us, not just the Crotons.
Destroy Crotons.
He's mad, poor old chap.
The most interesting bit of casting was Philip Maddock, a classic Who veteran, who made his debut in the original Croton story with Patrick Troughton, and then turned up in the War Games, The Brain of Morbius, and The Power of Crawl. He plays the leader of the humans who's enthralled to the Crotons, and is one of the show's all-time great villain actors.
Current amount of K7 mined on planet Onyakis, 5,000 metric tons. Initial hope of K7's energy-yielding properties not realized. Current experimentation suggests the crystalline substance is inert. Inert. One more piece of bad news, and I may not be responsible for my actions.
We've had a response.
You've had a what?
Anyway, as you'd expect, Six and Charley did their best to help the humans out and stop the Crotons from eating their minds. This isn't a groundbreaking story, but it's a good time, and it's always nice to see old enemies brought back and given new life. Semi-literally. The Rain Cloud Man was a near last-minute replacement for what was supposed to be Charley's last story, Blue Forgotten Planet. But Colin Baker and India Fisher like working together, so they decided to give them an extra trilogy of stories, which basically just extended her exit to multiple stories rather than just one. Charley's complicated. She needs more time to leave. Arguably, Charley's exit takes 5 stories containing 2 trilogies. The first is temporal, Return of the Crotons, Raincloud Man, and Patient Zero all head into each other directly. While Patient Zero, Paper Cuts, and Blue Forgotten Planet are a full-on story arc. Anyway, The Raincloud Man is a sequel to The Condemned, Charley's first story. We're back in Manchester, D.I. Menzies is back, and the focus is on more low-key and real-world adjacent stuff. At least to begin with. Where The Condemned was hoof-fitting itself into a crime drama, this slowly turns into a high-stakes gambling thing with galactic repercussions. Basically, the Doctor finds evidence of a £20-12 coin in Manchester in 2008, and decides to track the errant time traveller down. Apparently, never once considering that he or one of his companions could be responsible. But it's not, it's a gambler, a high-stakes gambler with connections to a travelling alien casino that lets you bet stuff like your knowledge, your youth, or your memories, and is under attack from giant orange aliens. I won't explain why, though, it's kinda spoilery. Also in the mix is the Raincloud Man, another alien who emits a natural psychic field that influences luck for the worse. As a straightforward story, this is perfectly fine. As a follow-up to the interestingly real-world The Condemned, this is kinda disappointing. It can be summed up with how Menzies has changed. She went from a regular, though acerbic cop, to apparently the focal point for Manchester's alien weirdness. Still acerbic, though.
Oh no, it's you.
Oh, charming.
A Merry Christmas to you too.
Where have you been? We've been waiting for you for an hour.
I've been out policing. It's a drag, but apparently it's my job. And I thought I told you to steer clear of Manchester. The victim's a big guy. Very big. Looks like a puncture wound to the heart. Cheers.
He fell into the mirror.
7 years bad luck.
Usually people get terribly confused when we start talking about arriving before we left and whatnot.
Really? It's not exactly rocket science, you know. I have seen Back to the Future and all that.
Oh, have you?
You're letting her go?
Why not? It's not like she was on the verge of cracking. Face it, you had nothing.
Well, I can't believe she just flatly denied it.
I can. She's a poker player. What did you want us to do? Beat her until she confessed to being from the future? It might not have stood up in court. Have I gone blind? Or is it just really dark in here?
Either it's dark or I've gone blind as well.
The chances of us both having gone blind are surely very small. Any idea where we are?
Menzies is played by Anna Hope, who played Haim the Cat Nun in New Who. This is just a small thing, but I wish Six had called D.I. Menzies D.I. Mingus at some point. He's a pedant and likes to go out of his way to use original pronunciation. And Menzies is a Scottish name, and the Scottish pronunciation is Mingus. Fun side note, but years ago, the leader of the Lib Dems was Sir Mingus Campbell, nicknamed Ming the Merciless. And we narrowly avoided a general election with him and Prime Minister Gordon Brown.
We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close.
Another issue is that it really makes the recurring problem of just how obvious Charlie's secret is even worse. The villain flat out tells the Doctor that Charlie was sure the outcome of something in the story because she knew he'd be okay in the future.
I realized too late that I was going to lose. I didn't think the girl had the nerve. But then she seemed to realize that she was guaranteed to win.
What do you mean?
As if she knew for sure that you didn't lose who you are today.
What do you mean?
Anyway, Charlie, in an insane move, tries to steal a time traveler's memories and time machine.
Charlie's got a plan.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. Resourceful girl, that one.
Yeah, just let me know what you think of it. Carmen lost her time machine and all of her knowledge of time travel in a bet, right?
How careless of her.
So Charlie's plan is to give it back to her, then she can go back in time and stop all this before it even starts.
What?
Yeah, I had a feeling that it wasn't quite right, but she was very insistent.
What on earth is she playing at? She should know better.
So it's not on, basically?
Not in the slightest. Otherwise I'd be doing it all the time.
Charlie said you do.
That girl and I shall have to have words very soon.
Lish, is it possible to gift somebody else with your winnings from this table?
Yes, you can designate somebody else to get whatever you win.
Right. In that case, could you make me the recipient?
You? Why?
I'm not sure we can rely on her. Once she gets her memory back, well, she might be a whole different person. She might not help us at all, whereas I definitely will.
Now, this is either terrible writing because, fucking hell, she knows the fuckery messing with the timeline will cause, or she was planning on trying to escape 6 and track down 8 again. Of course, I think it was probably the second one, but she never gives an indication about which it is. And she barely gets a strong word of condemnation for it.
Why? Because this was an insanely irresponsible plan. What were you thinking, Charlie?
That it might work and be a good idea?
I'll save the 3.5-hour lecture on why it wouldn't work and why it was a dreadful idea for later.
Honestly, if the making of didn't explain that this replaced Blue Forgotten Planet, I would have assumed that this was originally supposed to be her exit, getting chucked out by sex, and then it was hastily rewritten. Though luckily, that thread is picked up in the next story, which begins her final trilogy with sex. Like I said before, her exit is kind of stretched. Now, with most of the Doctor Who main range, you can happily buy random stories and listen to them in any order without missing much. With these ones, you really need to hear them in order. Anyway, The Raincloud Man is a fine story with some flaws, but some excellent sections. The big orange aliens are fighting a weird war with the robotic Cyrox. The war is fantastically imaginative and honestly, too good to spoil here. There's also a wonderful scene where Charlie meets a time-sensitive alien, who finds her hard to even look at because of how temporally wrong she is. 8 created a paradox by saving her life, so she shouldn't even exist.
Can we come in?
Of course.
This here is Charlotte Pollard.
Call me Charlie.
Charmed. Now, can I get anything to, Ow.
Are you alright?
Ow, ow, ow.
What's wrong?
I think you are. Would you mind stepping back, please?
Sorry, I should have said she's a time traveller.
No, it's more than that. Your timeline's all snarled up. Unresolved paradox. You can't just hope he'll get a whack on the head and forget all about you. No offence, but this is too big for you to handle.
I can't tell him everything. That'll only make it worse.
You don't seem to realise how much the timeline hates you being here. If it was a cat, it would be hissing at you right now.
And the big finale is a high-stakes game of Top Trumps, played like an intense poker game. Top Trumps is a card game where you have to choose a card from your hand, choose a high number on it, and your opponent then says their corresponding number, and the winner with the highest number gets both cards. Repeat until someone has no cards. The decks are based around vehicles or pop culture or history, and the numbers are connected to everything from top speed to how strong someone is. It's a very fun game, and so very doctorish.
Wait, £3,800.
The Doctor wins again.
I'm just getting the hang of this game now. I'll turn this around.
Oh, I don't know. I'm tempted to quit whilst I'm ahead.
One more game. Playing for everything. Your machine, your knowledge, all the ground you've won from us.
In exchange for everything you have left?
Yes.
You'd lose the war? Back to square one, are you sure?
Yes.
Like I said before, Charlie's next adventures were her last. An epic story explaining how she left 6, and more importantly, why 8 doesn't remember her. And it opens with Patient Zero, one of the most delightfully mean-spirited Doctor Who stories in years. Right after the Raincloud Man, Charlie and 6 have a massive row. He's demanding to know why she tried to steal the time machine.
What's that?
Don't change the subject. Whatever it is, can wait.
Are you sure? It sounds sort of urgent.
Who are you and what are you doing here? Come on, I'd be more than patient with you, Charlotte, if that really is your name. Why did you want Carmen's time machine?
No, I'm pretty sure this was always the plan, but it's also possible that someone realised that her actions in Part 4 of the Raincloud Man really should have had consequences. And I'm just glad it happened, because, fucking hell, the Doctor should have stopped the plot and yelled at her when he found out she tried to steal the Time Traveller's identity and tech. Anyway, not long into the row, Charlie collapses. She's got a virus. A virus that the TARDIS was unable to pick up and cure, and she soon falls into a coma. She wakes up years later in the Zero Room, the TARDIS's healing room, seen in Castrovalva. The Doctor's been spending the time trying to cure her, trying to track down the virus, and I assume have a few companionless adventures. He's finally tracked down what he thinks is the origin of the virus, a gigantic space station that collects and houses the galaxy's most dangerous viruses, so they can be destroyed by the Virons. A mysterious alien species that Nick Briggs invented and Charlie will get to know very well. Fun fact, but the Virons were invented for a New Who storybook, technically making them the first bit of New Who to make it to Big Finish. Anyway, the Daleks soon arrive, desperately searching for Patient Zero. While all this is going on, Charlie's being visited by a blurry figure who claims to love her, that tells her that she's going away, and that she's going to be replaced.
Charlotte Pollard, I love
you?
Oh, I feel terrible. Oh.
You're leaving, Charlie.
What are you talking about?
You're going to leave the doctor.
This is Mila, patient 0. She was experimented on by the Daleks and has been hiding out in the TARDIS for hundreds of years, invisible and intangible to everyone, except Charlie now. The space station is controlled by the Fratellans, a jelly-like life form that's spread throughout 800 bodies. A great concept, and even better cannon fodder for the Daleks. The Daleks are being led by the Time Controller, a Dalek designed to see the web of time, kinda like a Time Lord, and as a result they can't kill the Doctor. It'd messed up their future history. But they can kill a lot of Fratellans, which leaves the remaining ones more and more damaged.
Unit 2 reporting. Have located Fratellin creature exterminate.
Fratellin, you must know that the Daleks will track down every one of your familiars and kill them. They are utterly ruthless. They won't stop until you give them what they want.
I see that, Doctor. I know that. But I cannot give them what they want.
Well, what can be worth this much suffering? What is this great work you mentioned before? Fratellin!
I cannot tell you. I am sworn to secrecy. No!
Oh!
This is the Time Controller's first appearance, but very far from his last. He really came into his own as a recurring 8th Doctor villain. Anyway, this is a great story. It's got the same sense of grim fatalism as Resurrecting the Daleks, but without its occasional bouts of humour. There's torture, murder, and so much dread. For example, outside of the Doctor and Charlie, there's exactly one normal person in the story, and he spends his whole scene trying to get away from it.
When do they arrive?
The Virons?
Yeah. Soon, is it?
Well, that's classified, Commander. And your departure is now overdue.
Don't worry, I'm not sticking around if there's any chance of those guys turning up anytime soon. But, listen,
Yes?
you and your people can come aboard my ship and get away now, if you like. I mean, no one would blame you.
That would be dereliction.
It would be survival, mate. Survival!
The rest of the characters are the Fratellans, who, like Mila, sound a bit like serial killers.
And you came here looking for a virus?
Well, yes, I did. Is that all right?
You are in breach of security protocols.
Am I?
If you know about the viruses we have stored here, then...
You have viruses here? Well, then this
There is only one course of action for me to take. You have no security classification, which means you are a potential saboteur.
No, I'm not.
There is no other available classification.
But I thought you had an open mind.
The penalty is execution.
I thought things were going rather too well.
Oh, what? Oh, what's happening? Oh, what's going on? Mila, are you doing this to me?
Oh, Charlie, it's nearly time for you to go.
There's also a fuckload of Daleks in the cruel and murderous A game, and then there's the mysterious Virons, ominous and pitiless aliens who can fight the Daleks to a stalemate.
Doctor, this battle's a complete stalemate. As soon as the Virons reform themselves, the Daleks are blasting them to pieces again.
What kind of creatures are these Virons, Fratellin?
I cannot tell you.
Well, will they ever give up?
Never.
As I suspected.
Anyway, I didn't want to spoil this, but it's kind of necessary for the next two stories. Mila's right. Charlie does go. Mila replaces her, assuming her identity and leaving her trapped, intangible, and immaterial, and leaving the Doctor stuck with a companion who stole his friend's life. A companion that's gone a bit mad after torture, imprisonment, and then centuries alone.
Who? You?
Still feeling awful, are you?
But I thought...
What did you think, Charlie? That I deserted you? That I didn't really love you?
Your face, it's clearer now. There's something familiar about it.
Is there? Have you seen the Doctor?
Yes. Those are my clothes you're wearing.
Are they?
And your hair.
Oh, do you like it? You should. It's the way you're wearing yours. Though not quite so sweaty, of course, but then I'm not ill anymore.
Anymore? Oh!
And while I've changed into you, you've started to change into...
You mean...
It's so perfect. That's why I love you, Charlotte Pollard. Because I am you now.
I've been watching you so closely. I know everything I need to know about you.
Mila was voiced quite brilliantly by Jess Robinson.
and that was quite fun. But this character is the most fun so far, because Mila is a little bit of a psycho, and for some reason I'm relating to that quite easily today. I think maybe too much tea.
She's mostly an impressionist with a huge collection of voices. We never get a description of her before she becomes Charley, but I assume she was a singular white female. Unlike the Fratlins, who are multiple, 800 of them, all played by Michael Maloney, who you might remember from Bone Kickers, but I hope you don't, because then you saw Bone Kickers.
Can I tempt you to recite the talk you gave in Cairo on the Ishtar Gate? It would coincide with the relaunch of my old DVD. Well, you may remember when this arch was first installed here.
In which you describe Babylon as Alexander the Great's bisexual stop-off point.
Well, one must have an angle.
Maloney really did a fantastic job of coming up with slight variations for the different versions of the Fratlands, going from cold and officious to unhinged and desperate, as pieces of them keep dying.
You will shut down the force field, or your fellow creature will be destroyed!
354, envelop this machine creature. Yes, Supervisor!
Stay back! Do not move! Stay back!
I hope this works, Fratellin.
Pulsing enveloped! Pulsing enveloped! Going on!
No! It's working! He's overpowered!
Watch out, Doctor!
Exterminate!
No! You will kill no more of us!
Mission impaired! I cannot sing! I sing!
Fratellin, are you all right?
They killed one of us, but we are still conjoined. Doctor, what happened? I thought you would be safe in your TARDIS.
Unfortunately not.
Doctor, get down!
Ah!
No! They've killed him!
I don't think so. Fratellin?
So many of my familiars dead.
No. I'm so sorry. Are you going to be all right?
All right. I have lost so much of myself and they will never return to me.
Anyway, Patient Zero is amazing, dark, cold, and with a strong sense of impending disaster. And it has some fantastic cliffhangers, especially episode 1.
You're not throwing me out with the rubbish, are you? I hate the smell of old bins.
There is no waste in the Amethyst Station. We are buried deep beneath the surface of a lava planet. You will be vented into molten lava.
Oh. Is there any chance you might reconsider? No way out. There must be better ways to die. Sorry, Charlie. What? What's going on? How ironic.
Materialization complete!
Rescued by the Daleks.
Though the cliffhanger might have worked even better if the Daleks weren't on the front cover. It's just a deadly serious Patrick Troughton-era base under siege story. Give it a listen, but make sure you don't listen to it in isolation, because, while you technically can, but shouldn't ignore the next story, Paper Cuts, Patient Zero really should be listened to alongside Charlie Swan's song, the long-awaited Blue Forgotten Planet. But first, Paper Cuts. It features the Draconians, John Pertwee's favourite aliens, and for a race generally considered one of Classic Who's A-list, they've barely turned up on TV or in audio. The Draconians are basically feudal Japanese reptiles. Not evil like the Daleks or the Cybermen and all, but a race of individuals. Kinda wild they need to point to that as one of their unique selling points. Anyway, they have a martial culture, are deeply honourable, love tradition, and are heavy on ritual. Their heavily stratified society has reams of unwritten rules, and breaking them can mean death. So naturally, the Doctor's a noble and was personal friends with the 15th Emperor. That's all directly from the TV show.
My life at your command, sire.
How dare you address the Emperor in a manner reserved for a noble of Draconia?
Ah, but I am a noble of Draconia. The honour was conferred on me by the 15th Emperor.
I once played Sazu. That's a sort of draconian chess against the 15th Emperor. I'm the only person to have ever beaten him. Which was a bad move, because no one beats the Emperor. The knack is to lose while displaying as much strategic skill as possible, so that he thinks he's the clever one by beating you.
The Doctor, when he was Hartnell, got his title by saving Draconia from a terrible space plague. But it turns out that happened because the events of Patient Zero. It ends with the station being destroyed and sending the viruses all across the universe. Those viruses lead to yet more stories, which I'll talk about when they come up. The main point of Paper Cuts is to give the Draconians some much needed depth beyond Space Samurai, which is fairly successful at, though much of the added depth is adding even more Japanese or vaguely Japanese sounding stuff to them.
Draconian culture is very formal, austerely elegant to the point of minimalist. Masked priests, ferocious warriors, the contemplation of a single white blossom. That sort of thing. Be polite and bow a lot and you'll be fine.
How much is a lot?
It's another empty room.
With paper walls. That's the fourth.
For Zoomer screens, to be exact, or their equivalent. Typical of most Draconian households. Ooh, I do apologise. Your dragon mask, it startled me. It's very fearsome.
The sun, rising early, catches the wily night with blood-red fingers.
And unwelcome truth sinks deep beneath the lullaby wash of memory.
Indeed so. I used to watch them, the Emperor and the Doctor, playing Sazu on the great game board in the castle gardens. The nobles themselves acted as pieces in richly ornate robes and armour.
The Doctor has received a summons from his friend the Emperor and arrives to discover that he's died. And now the Doctor has to take part in elaborate funeral rituals aboard the Imperial Space Necropolis. The Draconians believe that their emperors rule eternally from their palace in Havan. And sorry for the spoilers, but it's kinda true. The emperors are kept in suspended animation, alive and semi-conscious.
Just like Gerald Ford.
Available to give advice to the incumbent for the priesthood. Kept busy with walls that project their memories and life-size games of Sazu, Draconian chess. Unfortunately for everyone trapped in the space station for the funeral rituals, the first emperor, the most merciless and bloodthirsty of them all, wants to kill the Doctor. And will use his Sazu pieces to do it.
He's pushing through.
Run, Gamori!
No, stay still. Don't look at him.
What?
Bow low. Lower.
Great warrior,
We are defenceless before your might. We who are not even worthy to pepper your beard bow before you and accept our fate at your honourable hand.
Is it working?
Bow lower.
I'm on the floor as it is.
Don't look at him.
Sazu game pieces. How very beautiful.
Warriors, just like the one that attacked us.
Really?
But that one was white.
I don't mind spoiling this, because the reveals aren't that important, or dramatic. The point of the story is world building for the Draconians, and it excels at that. I didn't give them too much thought before listening to this, but with this fresh in my mind, I would love to see them on screen again. It's a sort of simple story that could easily be 1 or 2 parts long if they cut out the richness of the cultural stuff, and I'm so glad they didn't. It's COD Japanese, it's clearly COD Japanese, but it's good COD Japanese. Stuff like paper technology, the main threat comes from origami Terminators.
He's gone! He spared you both of us!
Did you see him?
Are you mad? I told you not to look. Such sights, they ain't for the likes of us.
He was in white, purest white. A warrior with armour like, almost like folded paper. Gamori rescued me from some sort of warrior who attacked us.
A warrior? What sort of warrior?
All in white armour he was, head to heel.
But it was like paper. He was almost sculpted into it.
Was he indeed? Just the one?
Were you expecting more?
But each one is exquisite in detail. Look! Each life-size figure folded out of a single sheet of red paper. Origami warriors.
With paper swords?
There's only 15 pieces. Only half a set.
One side of the game.
Because the other side, the white side, is out there.
They're moving.
Doctor, they're moving.
Get out! Get out now!
This was scripted by Who veteran Mark Platt, who wrote Ghostlight back on the classic show. Ghostlight was originally going to be a story called Lungbarrow, which would have trained his creative world building on the Time Lords. Platt eventually turned his original Lungbarrow concept into a novel, which I suggest you all check out, if by some miracle you can find a copy. Platt's also written a bunch of Big Finish, including Spare Parts, arguably their best ever release, which shows us the genesis of the Cyberman, and was later mined for ideas by Age of Steel, Rise of the Cybermen, and New Who. I've seen some reviewers unhappy that the Doctor would think so highly of the Draconians. They're mostly not very pleasant in this. But I think this is totally in character. I mean, the Doctor loves humans, and we've easily done stuff as bad. There is one bit that really nails the Doctor's complicated morals when it comes to this kind of thing.
And here he is, my old friend. Well, he might have been all-powerful, but he did have a great sense of humour.
Really?
Quiet.
Oh, yes. All the best tyrants have a twinkle.
New Who tends to shy away from facing this part of the Doctor's personality, but he's friends with Chairman Mao.
I remember once having a conversation with Zedong.
Zedong? That is the personal name of our chairman, Mao Zedong.
He himself gave me leave to use it.
So yeah, this is good, very good, but unlike Patient Zero or the next story, it's not essential for Charlie's exit arc. Because if you ignore little bits of it, it's basically identical to a usual Six and Charlie story. Mila literally became her in Patient Zero, so India Fisher even plays her basically the same. Blue Forgotten Planet is Charlie's swan song with Six. Now, there is a huge gap in universe between paper cuts in this, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get some Six and Mila as fake Charlie adventures at some point.
So where to now?
Well, I promised you a trip to Earth, didn't I?
That was ages ago. And you did say we were going the long way round.
Yes, Charlie, but it's been an extremely long way round, hasn't it?
I suppose it has, really. So, Earth then?
Earth it is.
Anyway, this follows up from Patient Zero as Six and fake Charlie arrive on Earth and find out that there's a weird plague ravaging the planet. Those affected are angry, have lost their ability to fully reason, or are driven to violence against anyone different from them. Things have gone so badly that the humans don't actually know what year it is, but it's safe to say it's post-Brexit. The Virons from Patient Zero are attempting to cure humanity, but as always, there's a twist. A virus from the station in Patient Zero has made it to Earth, because the station went boom near the end of that story. But that's not what's causing the problems. It's a side effect to the Virons' attempted cure. And Charlie, real Charlie, is working for them. Dun dun dun! The Virons are voiced by Michael Maloney from Patient Zero. They don't usually use verbal speech, so assimilate voices from people they interact with.
Oh my God! Is that them? The Virons?
Yes.
They're huge!
Welcome to Earth. I apologize for the behavior.
We need to examine this woman.
Me? Examine? Why? We can't let them do that.
No!
Please discontinue your aggressive action or we will be forced.
Get off our planet!
They did it in Patient Zero too, but I thought I'd mention it here because a lot was going on in Patient Zero. The name, Blue Forgotten Planet, is a riff on charity appeals. In this case, Earth, the Blue Forgotten Planet.
Because the Virons tell me that when the people back on their home planet look into the eyes of every human being on this Earth, well, they won't be able to hold back the vital supplies and funding we need any longer. So get out there, all of you. Get to work, and with luck, we will no longer be the Blue Forgotten Planet.
This wraps up everything really well, manages to keep the Doctor's timeline intact, sets up further adventures for Charlie, and effectively deals with Mila, the fake Charlie, who even manages to be sympathetic even after everything she's done.
I'm so sorry, Charlie. I really am. I shouldn't have done what I did, I admit that. But I've become a different person now. I've become you, or something very like you, and the Doctor and I, well, we've bonded. Not anymore. Not now I'm here. Now he doesn't trust either of us. Seems like I mess everything up, don't I? Maybe. But I'm glad you're not dead. I'm glad those Virons cured you and that it's turned out that I didn't get the life I stole from you by killing you.
India Fisher, who plays the Charlies, and Colin Baker both knock it out of the park, acting-wise. Fisher is playing two identical people with subtle differences, sometimes arguing with each other, and according to the behind-the-scenes interviews, she did it all live, switching between them in real time.
But he's got to be all right, hasn't he? I mean, you're living proof of that, aren't you? You're from the Doctor's future. You know that he lives on and changes. No, I don't know. My coming back in time may have changed everything, Mila. Don't call me that! I'm not Mila anymore. Well, you're not me. You can't be me just because you mutated. I'm Charlotte Pollard,
And you're supposed to be dead! Oh, if the Doctor could hear you now. You may have been his perfect little companion for goodness knows how long, but if he knew that underneath you were just some kind of maladjusted, psychopathic... Well, perhaps you'd like to spend a lifetime being tortured by the Daleks and see how maladjusted you turned out to be. Oh, this is pointless.
Well, Colin Baker gets to play a lot of uncharacteristic desperation as Six tries to fix a completely screwed situation, while dealing with being betrayed by two long-term companions who he thought were the same person.
Let me go.
Doctor, sorry, but why did you leave the TARDIS? What's the matter?
That thing you set up, whatever it was, it's gonna blow.
Blow? Oh, no.
The jamming of our dissemination signal is weakening.
Oh, no, you don't understand.
You have failed, Doctor.
I have to get back to the TARDIS.
Doctor, wait for me. No, me. Come on, Ed.
Restrain them. Dissemination signal is breaking through.
No! Can't you stop them, Doctor? Charlie said you were the one who could sort this out. What's going wrong?
I projected a time sphere from the TARDIS to stop their dissemination signal, trapping the signal in a time loop, but it was a lash-up. I'd hoped it would hold long enough.
Long enough for what?
For me to find another solution. Maybe persuade the Virons to shut the transmission off.
You're optimistic.
He always is.
Not anymore.
Doctor?
The time sphere is imploding.
The Virons are a great creation, an emotionless and pitiless race of machines, utterly dedicated to wiping out the viruses from Patient Zero, no matter how many genocides they need to do it.
You really are serious, aren't you?
I do not understand.
You would give an entire race almost fatally damaging treatment.
That was an unforeseen side effect.
Oh, yes, well, that makes all the difference. But you do that and then contemplate wiping them out just because there's a 1 in 5 billion chance of someone catching a cold or something in the next few million years?
The risk is within the parameters laid down for our mission.
And who exactly laid down these parameters?
I will not tell you.
Oh, yes, forbidden knowledge and all that. Well, whoever it was is an idiot!
This isn't the best Six and Charlie story, that's probably the Doomwood Curse or Patient Zero, but this is highly recommended, though maudlin listening. And as for why 8 doesn't remember Charlie, think 12 and Clara in Series 9 of New Who, but better. And coming out 6 years beforehand, because like Classic Who, Big Finish loves to do memorable stuff from New Who, but years beforehand.
Time travel!
And to make it even more like Clara's ending, this story also starts with a lone doctor, somewhere unusually warm, having just lost a companion. And then we get the story of how it happened. Basically, 6 remembers almost all their time together, but Charlie is replaced by Mila. Her name, her voice, her real face.
She was a tiny thing. Jet black hair, bright green eyes. Oh, she was far too impressed with me. I shall never forget you, Mila.
Anything else? Yes, a couple of Charlie's releases come with parts of the 3 companions, a story told across a great many releases. But honestly, if you want to hear it, I'd buy it separately from the Big Finish website. It's just simpler. Charlie had 2 more appearances with 6. One was The Avenues of Possibility, part of the Big Finish 20th anniversary release, The Legacy of Time. That one features her in 6, teaming up with D.I. Menzies again. The other was The Red House, part of The Last Adventure, the 6th Doctor's swan song, that takes place throughout his life. But I'll be talking about them in a future video all about special releases like that. Charlie's run is a bit of a come down quality-wise from Evelyn's, but remember, Evelyn's run is especially strong. Charlie's isn't especially essential listening, but it's well worth listening to all the same. It's pretty much average quality Big Finish, which puts it head and shoulders above a lot of other kinds of Who. I just wouldn't suggest starting here with a collection. 6 and Charlie are usually much better paired with other people. If you do want to buy them, then in my experience, you can usually find the releases on CD second hand without breaking the bank. But our digital copies from the Big Finish website aren't as cheap as Evelyn's, so wait for a sale. If you want some suggestions, then I recommend the Doomwood Curse alongside the final trilogy of Patient Zero, Paper Cuts, and Blue Forgotten Planet. Plus Brotherhood of the Daleks if you're feeling a bit frisky. I had an idea for a simple change to improve this arc. Take inspiration from Turlough and the 5th Doctor. Charlie comes up with obvious bullshit explanations and 6 sees straight through them. He assumes that she's another Turlough, a lying, manipulative person on a mission. And like Turlough, he means to help her. Become a true friend. Anyway, join me next time for Flipjacks and solo travels. And if you want more of Charley, then check out our mini adventures with 8 or her solo stories. There's plenty out there.
Measure mystery and the sound. It's like taking up time. So the handiworks remain. Only a dream around.
Please remember to like and subscribe to the Doctor Who YouTube channel.